Tulsa News from 100 years ago, from May 1920. This podcast is brought to you by the cybersecurity consultants at Guernsey. For nearly 100 years, Guernsey, headquartered in Oklahoma, has provided engineering, architecture, and consulting services. Our cybersecurity practice helps companies manage cybersecurity risks. Contact them for a no-obligation conversation on how you can reduce your cybersecurity risks and meet your compliance obligations. You can read more about our cybersecurity services by visiting guernsey.us/cybersecurity. That is GUERNSEY.US/cybersecurity. Disclaimer language. The names, logos, and other source identifying features of newspapers depicted in this podcast are the trademarks of their respective owners, and our use of newspaper content in the public domain or by private agreement does not imply any affiliation with or endorsement from the publishers of the newspaper titles. Neither we nor our advertisers and affiliates endorse the content of any articles. We are presenting these stories for the purpose of historical perspective. Societal norms were different 100 years ago. Some listeners may be offended by some of the language and views expressed in these articles. We feel that gaining an understanding of what was important in the past may provide some perspective on today's challenges. Listener discretion is advised. If you enjoy this service, please leave us a positive review and share with your friends. And now, wire flashes. Albany, New York, May 20th. Governor Smith today vetoed the Fowler bill designed to repeal daylight savings law. Washington, May 20th. Exportation of sugar would be prohibited under the terms of a bill introduced in the Senate late today by Senator McNary of Oregon. Washington, May 20th. Exports for April decreased $135 million, while imports fell off $30 million. As compared with the trade figures for March, it was announced today by the Department of Commerce. Waco, Texas, May 20th. Lumber dealers here today announced reductions of $10 to $30 per 1,000 feet in the price of lumber. No reason was assigned for the slump, and dealers professed no knowledge as to further reductions. Philadelphia, May 20th. A verdict of guilty was today rendered against Mrs. Emma C. Bergdahl, who is charged with resisting a raiding party that captured her son. Grover Bergdahl, now serving 5 years for desertion from the Army. Watertown, New York, May 20th. Stockholders of the F.W. Woolworth Company, which operates a nationwide chain of 5 and 10 cent stores, have approved a 30% stock dividend and a capital stock increase of $65 million to $112 million. Washington, May 20th. Decision to bring the Senate peace resolution before the House tomorrow was reached today by Republican House leaders. The resolution probably will go to the president the same day, and a veto is expected by both sides. Toledo, Ohio, May 20th. In true Western style, 6 bandits this morning shot up the main street of Delta, Ohio. Near here, seriously wounding James Warner, a baker, invaded the People's Savings Bank and escaped with $12,000 in cash and Liberty bonds. London, May 20th. Signor Nitti has succeeded in forming a new Italian government, with himself as premier, according to a Central News dispatch from Rome today. Signor Nitti was premier in the preceding cabinet that resigned as a result of a hostile vote in the Chamber of Deputies. Jefferson City, May 20th. The meeting of the Democratic State Committee here adjourned this afternoon. without taking action on the subject of appointing a delegate in the National Convention from the 5th Kansas City District to fill the place of U.S. Senator Reed, who was rejected as a delegate by the state convention. New York, May 20th. Richard Armstrong, a Brooklyn youth, who today pleaded guilty to burglary in the 3rd degree, is alleged by the district attorney's office to have confessed that a gang of which he was a member had in 3 months escaped with $1,200,000 worth of securities obtained by burglarizing safes in the financial district below the famous police deadline for crooks. Quebec, May 20th. A forest fire in the sweeping Belchase County threatening destruction of the villages of Saint-Camille, Saint-Fabien, Planay, and Decam, according to telegraphic appeals for aid received here today. Decam was said to be in great danger, and the inhabitants were reported leaving their homes. Topeka, Kansas, May 20th. Examination of the Hanover State Bank at Hanover, Kansas, was revealed a shortage of approximately $100,000. The state banking department reported today the whereabouts of August Jadke, Jr., president of the bank, who left Hanover Monday, are still unknown today. A warrant has been issued for his arrest. St. Louis, May 20th. Charles G. Mulligan, a local cotton broker, late today was sentenced to 5 years in the penitentiary after he had admitted in circuit court that he had forged bills of lading for shipments of cotton to the amount of $150,000. The specific charge on which he was sentenced and to which he pleaded guilty, however, was that he had obtained $6,480 through a forgery. And now for news and ads from 100 years ago. Identify victim in Chalk killing. Man shot at Negro Road House is R.M. Hudson, not Charles A. Ray. File murder charge. Forrest Jones branded slayer of white man by wife. Eluded officers. Information charging Forrest Jones, alias Forrest Brokel, alias James Howard, a Negro, with the murder of the white man who was at first believed to be Charles A. Ray, but who was identified late yesterday as R.M. Hudson, was filed in the Court of Justice, S.C. Maxey, yesterday. Hudson was shot at a Negro chalk joint north of the city at 1:30 o'clock Thursday morning and died shortly after. Jones escaped after the shooting and has not been captured. According to the information furnished by Geneva Jones, who operates Geneva's Place, the chalk joint on North Owasso Street, just outside the city limits where the shooting occurred, Hudson, accompanied by 2 women, came to the place late Wednesday night in Hudson's black roadster. Not long after their arrival, Forrest Jones, the Negro woman's husband, with whom she said she had quarreled earlier in the night, came to the house and fired several shots into the place. One of these shots was fired through the panel of the front door, which was closed, and struck Hudson, who was standing in the front room, according to the Negro woman's story. Checks and cards found on the dead man's person bore the name of Charles A. Ray, and led the authorities to believe that that was the dead man's name. Neither of the girls knew the man's name, but declared that he had told them that he was married. After about 100 persons had visited the Mowbray morgue yesterday, the body was identified at 8 o'clock last night as that of R.M. Hudson, manager of the Mount Hope Nurseries on East 2nd Street, by Mrs. T.R. Irwin, 706 North Denver, who said that she lived at the same house occupied by Hudson and his wife. Mrs. Hudson was said to have left the city Wednesday morning, and efforts to communicate with her had been unsuccessful last night. The couple had no children, according to Mrs. Irwin. The identification by Mrs. Irwin was verified later by Dr. Hooker, who said he knew Hudson. County officers are making every effort to locate Jones, who they believe to be hiding somewhere north of the city. Is this the condition of your home? Your wife? Is she too tired to go out in the evenings? This is the condition in every home where there is a Hoover. Hot weather will soon be here. Save your time, strength, and rugs by purchasing a Hoover now. The excessive demand has made Hoovers hard to get. We have 'em. Telephone for demonstration. Electric Supply Company, 21 East 4th Street. Ardmore Sergeant killed in quarrel over possum hunt. Ardmore, Oklahoma, May 20th. Police tonight are looking for Bob Crozer, said to have been a companion of Claude Pruitt, who is being held in the county jail, here charged with killing John Sims. Night desk sergeant at police headquarters in front of the police station, here early this morning. Officers say Pruitt shot Sims when the officer attempted to search him and his companion after ordering them to leave the police station where they had quarreled over an opossum they had caught in a hunt. Pruitt is declared to have pulled his pistol and fired 9 shots, 5 of which struck Sims in the breast, killing him instantly. Pruitt, who is a cattleman and about 30 years old, is under a 2-year sentence in the penitentiary for shooting a man at Springer 3 years ago. He was out on bond pending an appeal to the Criminal Court of Appeals. Will Rogers, Majestic tomorrow. A return of one of Tulsa's favorite screen players is scheduled for tomorrow at the Majestic, when Will Rogers will be seen in his new comedy, Water, Water Everywhere. In this play, Rogers displays quite an unusual amount of mirth, dealing with a subject that appeals to everybody along about now. As Billy Fortune, Rogers has a role which he is wonderfully qualified to play, knowing the cattle country, the traditions of the West, and the code of the cowboy, as he does from years of actual experience. He felt quite at home during the filming of the picture, and several times remarked that it was like old times to be doing this. Mr. Rogers would rather ride and throw a rope than anything else in the world, and Water, Water Everywhere gives him ample opportunity to ride. It is the sort of riding which makes the spectator grip his chair and watch breathlessly, expecting to see horse and rider go rolling in the dust. We are lost. Goodbye. Last words of President Carranza. Mexico City, May 18th. We are lost. Goodbye, gentlemen. These were Carranza's final words before his flight from the besieged trains in early afternoon, May 14th, while pausing momentarily before a crowd of terrified civilian refugees a few miles east of San Marcos, accompanied by new intimates and guarded by what special dispatches term a very small cavalry force. The fugitive president crossed the narrow valley through which Mexican railway passes, stopped for a few moments and watched the liberal revolution forces occupy the stalled trains, then disappeared among the mountains. It is believed certain that Carranza was headed northeast toward the coast, by way of Cofre de Perote, with the intention of boarding a steamer at some small port and escaping from the country. Judging from the list of captured officials the generals received Sunday at the headquarters in Mexico City of the liberal revolutionary government, few are accompanying Carranza. Among them are believed to be Luis Cabrera, Secretary of the Treasury. Washington, May 18th. Luis Camarones, labor leader of Mexico, and known there as the Gompers of Mexico, came here today as special commissioner of the de facto government. Recent reports to the State Department announcing the plans for his visit suggested the possibility of his appointment later as the chief diplomatic representative to the United States. Marones and his associates, however, declined to discuss this, nor would the commissioner express an opinion on Mexican conditions. He left during the day for New York and will return here later. Dressed as a railway brakeman, Marones accompanied Alvaro Obregón from Mexico City when the latter was threatened with imprisonment. Information concerning him obtained by the government places him in the group of the more advanced thinkers of the labor movement, although not identified with the communistic element which has gained great strength in Mexico. And that was the Tulsa News from 100 years ago. Look for more of our podcasts on Spotify. Thank you for listening.